Despite tough times, South African philanthropists have continued to give back to society over the past 5 years, both with cash and their time. And the majority of givers donate to causes that resonate with them.
Well, these are some of the findings of the latest giving report. And joining us in studio with more detail, Noxolo Hlongwane, she's head of philanthropy at Nedbank Private Wealth. Also Bongiwe Mlangeni, the CEO of the Social Justice Project. Thanks both very much for coming in. So, Noxolo, are we looking at the high net individuals that you're measuring here, giving back to society?
Yes, Stephen. So the study looks at individuals that earn a minimum of 1.5 million per annum or have a net worth of 5 million investable assets, and that excludes their primary home. And we survey individuals across the country. And
not just your clients?
Not just our clients. So randomly selected, using the word randomly very loosely. Obviously, they do need to fit in with the criteria of the high net worth individual definition.
Mm-hmm. To what extent, though, have there been shifts? Has the broader economic environment globally, but more so locally, forced some of your clients to reevaluate the commitments and the value that they are actually directing down this route?
The findings of the study have been consistent over the past 5 years, in that high net worth individuals continue to demonstrate their long-term commitments. So last year, 2015, was particularly difficult for individuals and consumers. And one would ordinarily expect individuals to cut back. But the drop in giving was marginal. It was down from 91% to 88%. So on the whole, it is still 9 out of 10 individuals that continue to give to social causes.
Bongiwe, how does the Social Justice Initiative feature in all this? Are you part of the study that does the measurement?
We encourage philanthropy for social justice causes in South Africa. And by that, social justice causes are different to the social and community development that takes place. These are organizations that usually do advocacy work. They ensure that they continue to encourage our government to come up with fair policies that enable people to access their rights. These would be organizations right now that would be concerned about the integrity of our public institutions, and they will call on government to investigate corruption or strengthen some of the policy and political processes in the country. So we are an organization that encourages philanthropy for the kind of policy work and advocacy work that drives systemic change in South Africa.
Having said that, though, Bongiwe, only 3% of funds are being directed to advocacy funds. So why is that the case?
We think that is happening because it is easier for people to respond to a call for immediate needs. So when you put out a call for school shoes or school uniforms or books, people relate to that. It's tangible, it's an immediate need, they can cover it right now. Advocacy, though, is long-term. It involves consistent and persistent engagement with the state. It also involves a lot of lobbying. It could be mobilizing. So what happens is that people then tend to shy away from these activities. At the same time, though, if you look at, let's take the case that is well known, what TAC did, the Treatment Action Campaign, what they did to ensure that many people in South Africa access antiretroviral treatment. If you look at that example, you can see that while it takes a long time to see the results, when a policy changes, when the system shifts, it benefits most of us as South Africans, and it helps us to remain a stable country. So I think what happens then is a question of just understanding how important it is to have an active citizenry, and that includes, business advocating as well for the right kind of policies, and how important it is to walk this path with organizations that seek to ensure that we remain a country that is just, that is fair, that promotes equality and enables all the people to access their rights.
You get these big names like Bill Gates, J.K. Rowling. They make the headlines when they donate most of their fortunes back to society. Here in South Africa, we've had Alan Graney's wife, Jill, and they're committing their controlling interests to a foundation. They're the ones that make the headlines. But do we have other big names in South Africa that are giving back to society but prefer not to publicize it?
There are plenty, Stephen, and I think inherent in a lot of philanthropists is just the need to remain anonymous. I think their altruistic motives are driven by their personal values, so a lot of them don't do it for big PR. But there is a case for coming out, such as Ellen and Jill Gray, because it encourages and inspires more. But over and above that, I think we are in a space where philanthropy, as Africans, we are redefining it for ourselves. You mentioned the big names, but there's so much more that is happening on the ground. So much is happening in low-income communities, where low-income communities are assisting each other on a daily basis, and they have been for a very long time, way before aid, way before large charitable foundations and other funding institutions. And that's the type of philanthropy that you also need to start recognizing and appreciating and learning from.
How well planned or strategic is the planning around these commitments that are made? Does it form a part of budgets, actual budgets, and is it structured, or is it more so done on a whim?
The findings of the report, again, very consistently over the past 3 studies, high net worth individuals generally aren't very strategic in terms of their giving. Also just to highlight that strategic doesn't mean it's large sums of money that are contributed, and it doesn't mean that it has to be through a foundation, through a charitable trust, through a structured entity. As long as it's considered, as long as it's deliberate, as long as there are objectives set up front and the impact that you're looking to make. So it may be small-scale giving, as long as it's well considered, that is still strategic. But in terms of organizations that give through large, or individuals that give through large structures, very small, about 5%, because it is a huge commitment. Once you contribute your wealth or donate your wealth to this vehicle, you are just merely looking after it on behalf of the beneficiaries. You're just custodians. It's no longer yours.
Bongiwe, maybe just quickly, you talked about advocacy groups looking at the integrity of public institutions amongst those causes. I mean, do you think recent events and institutions perhaps coming under pressure in South Africa might heighten the cause and draw more support?
Definitely. I mean, we realize that if we do not support organizations that first bring us the information we need so that we know what is happening in our public institutions, if we don't support those organizations that raise the voice whenever something is going wrong, then we are in real trouble. That these organizations are very key, not just in bringing us the information that we need, but in also conducting research that helps government improve its own systems.
Yeah. Well, let's leave it there, ladies. Thanks so much for having joined us in studio this evening. Of course, Noxolo Hlongwane is Head of Philanthropy at Nedbank Wealth, and Bongiwe Mlangeni is CEO of the Social Justice Project.